Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Now, I'm really looking forward to this Joseph Parker vs Zhang Zhilei fight, which is the main feature undercard bout on the Anthony Joshua Francis Ngannou undercard, March 8th in Saudi Arabia. So this is a good fight for both. I think a lot of people see this as relatively competitive, a 50-50 in a lot of people's eyes, and I have seen a lot of people that are going for Zhang Zhilei as a guy who's on the rise, got some momentum after his wins over Joe Joyce. Joseph Parker, on the other hand, coming into this fight with momentum himself, career best win over puncher Deontay Wilder in his last fight out. So you have on one side Joseph Parker, the 2016 WBO champion, held the belt until he lost it to Anthony Joshua, who's implemented a number of different strategies and mixed up his style and weights at time in recent years, changed trainers, but he does look like he's settled onto a good relationship with his new trainer Andy Lee. Very good performance. And on the other hand, you've got the 2008 Olympic silver medalist Zhang, who a couple of years ago was kind of on the outside looking in after his close loss to Filip Hrgović. But here we are. Saudi Arabia is going to make this good top 10 contender level matchup. Some people would say this is guys who are just inside or thereabouts around the top 5 battling off. These are the sort of fights that we need to see in the heavyweight division more often. Obviously, this Saudi money is greasing the wheels to make it so. I think this is going to be a fight where it's two halves. One half, we're going to see very close, competitive, tight, tactical boxing. And I think the bigger man in Zhang Zhilei, who is the southpaw, who is very accurate, can land shots, he's very deliberate. I think he could find himself up after 6 rounds. I think this is a case the bigger man will use his size well. He will be very judicious with his shots. But on the other hand, you're going to have Joseph Parker, who will be wary of the power, who will look to ease into this fight. His opponent is significantly older than him. Zhang over 40 at this point. I think he is going to ease into the fight, not take too many risks early on. And I think the second half of the fight is where Joseph Parker will look to make a move. So those first 6 rounds, wouldn't be surprised if it's like 4-2, 3-all, or even Zhang up 4-5-1, 2, something like that, that he is in control of the fight. But where I see things starting to change is Parker, with his younger legs, he will use his footwork, he will use the ring, use his ring craft. He's going to make Zhang Zhilei work. We've seen in fights past where Zhang, for example, in the Hrgović fight, he was fading down the stretch. Hrgović was picking up rounds in the second half of the fight. Parker will know that Zhang will be prone to fading late. So he's got to try take Zhang into deep waters, stay out of trouble, not take too many, especially not too many flush, because he won't be able to handle too many of those, and get it into the later half of the fight. Because I think if he can start to gas out Zhang Zhilei, make him use those older legs, tire him out, he will start to have more success, pick up more rounds. And this could be a real tactical battle of him trying to sort of take it late. I'm not saying that he is going to stop him later in the fight, but it's a possibility. But I do think he will try to really make Zhang work and pick up most of the latter rounds in the fight. So what we could have is Parker down on the cards after 6, but ultimately winning a majority of the second half of the fight, the second 6 rounds, and trying to get a decision that way. Boxing smart, utilizing movement, really taking advantage when he can if he finds the opportunities against a tiring, slowing Zhang Zhilei in the second half of the fight. And I know some people will say, well, Zhang hasn't demonstrated that he has faded in fights, but the Hrgović, I think, example is a classic one. And even against other opposition, Cherry Forrest, he did fade in that one. Some people will just put that down to there were a few things in Zhang's build-up to that fight that he wasn't doing right that he's corrected. But the Hrgović fight, we have that. And I think even the first Joe Joyce fight, after the effort expended in the first few rounds, you actually saw in the last couple of rounds Zhang starting to slow a bit, Joyce trying to activate his juggernaut mode, but ultimately the accurate punching of Zhang, while he was still relatively fresh, sort of settled the deal there. So you do have a case with Zhang. He's going to have to manage his energy. And for Parker, he's going to have to run a real fine line and have a balance between making Zhang work, landing shots, trying to work him to the body, trying to actually because it is a work rate sport to some extent. If Parker stands off, has relatively little success, and can't make Zhang work and try to have it in his pace, at controlling the fight, especially in the second half of the fight, Zhang will run away with it. So Parker is going to have to make him work. And this is where, could pose some dangers for Parker, getting caught, trying to come in, trying to make things happen. But I do think the first 6 rounds of the fight, Parker will be boxing and moving. He'll be trying to stay out of harm's way. And even in that period, 6 rounds, high-level boxing at this level, it is going to take something out of Zhang, those over 40-year-old legs. So, yeah, it's going to be a fight of two halves where it really is anyone's for the taking. I'm actually favouring Joseph Parker to win this fight in a very close decision. But it's not going to surprise me if it ends up being, 7-5 to Zhang or something like that. I think either way, whoever wins this, it goes to the cards in a close decision. And it wouldn't shock me if there was a draw either. But I do think it's going to be one guy largely more in control, utilising his height and reach, accurate punching in the first half, and the younger fighter coming on stronger in the second half and taking more rounds off the older fighter as he tires. So, yeah, I'm predicting a very close competitive fight. It's not necessarily going to be a barn burner in terms of action early on. I think it's going to be a tactical battle, and ultimately the second half of the fight will come down to the winning of the fight for these two fighters. But I'm picking a very close decision for Joseph Parker. I think based off his relationship, his ability to adapt game plans and, for different fighters, I think he could have Zhang's number if he plays his cards right and stays out of harm's way. He does have the ability to land against this sort of style of fighter, but it's going to have to be a disciplined performance. I know some people will say the Deontay Wilder performance was that more about Wilder not being able to execute, but at the end of the day, Joseph Parker showed us against a big puncher who's got the height and reach, he can go in there and execute a game plan and take it away from the other guy who is the puncher. What do you make of this fight? Who do you think is going to win? How do you see it playing out? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.